Hello everyone, this is Dr. Shijun Wang. Today's video I'm going to continue working on this whole series of the Brahms late intermezzos, opus 118. I'm going to continue with number 2. And this is probably among all the late intermezzi from opus 116 to opus 119. This is probably the most famous one, the most popular one. I think because it's probably the closest to what we people from 21st century feel personally. Sometimes a piece you have to understand the whole background, you have to understand the way of living of the composer. But this one, everyone from the deepest part of their hearts can draw connection to. And even with a great masterpiece like this, he was again constructed this whole thing with the idea of a simple minor second interval and then a major second interval as the this is this very simple. I usually call this the DNA of course we call it the motives, but it's almost like a DNA because it doesn't matter if it's a part of your skin or if it's your eyelash or your hair, we can test it so that this is from the same person. And here we have so many different types of emotions. There's reserved feeling, there is the open-hearted feeling, and yet everything is from the same DNA. But also compared to number 1, which of course mainly built on the soprano voice with octaves, and this begins with a string quartet texture. So if not more, at some places, you average have 4 voices, and these DNA, these motives happens everywhere. It's in the soprano, in the alto, in the bass, in the tenor. You can find these in every voice. The beginning of this is such a Mozartian classical way of phrasing things, right? The sentence period, all those phrase structures. We have the short, long, one measure, another measure, and then 2 measures. And F major, 2 short phrases, and then a long phrase, or a short phrase, and goes on and on for a long phrase. Basically, most of the early sonatas by Beethoven has this feature. And here we go, 100 years later, Brahms writing these. And of course, we know he was in the club of the conservatives, and he has a group of friends who is in support of him, with Liszt and Wagner. But even when Wagner heard Brahms playing his own Handel variation, Wagner said, it makes sense. Even someone who can do it, who knows how to do it, in the old form, it sounds great. And he also said in his diary, he said, it's almost like a time machine, right? Somebody wearing a wig playing in the old form in front of him as if the person is traveled from 100 years ago. So, with all those romantic sentiment, romantic feeling, the form is old sonata form. only 16 measures. In measure 4, we have this happening, I think, in the tenor, the same major second, minor second thing. And why a sudden leap of sevenths? And actually, in a matter of fact, it's a sudden leap of a tenth, because Brahms literally lowered it. Instead of jumping from B, now we're jumping from F sharp, and I can reach this, but I still want this road chord to be played this way. Why? When we come to road chords, and of course Liszt, Chopin, Rachmaninoff, he had huge hands. So one practical reason behind this is to, if you don't roll the chord, you cannot reach. But that's the most basic function. And oftentimes, composer is thinking of voicing. When you roll something, it's much easier to voice whatever note you want. Usually it's the top. If you play a chord, three noted or 4 noted chord, if say C major, if you play them together, and then you want to voice the top, it's possible, but it's hard. But if you roll it, then it's much easier to voice the top. And also, I think here, at least in this case, Brahms is trying to delay the A. Not as easy to get there, but as if we were to sing it, the singer will prepare, much longer for a tense leap. And here, even this is coming down from the same DNA. The second time from measure 5, it's a similar starting point, but with a gloomy feeling of that G minor. And here Brahms also wrote Dolce. And Dolce really is a overused term in the Romantic period. We see Dolce everywhere in Schumann, Chopin, Liszt. But for Brahms, Dolce has a very special meaning. Dolce meaning it's introvert, it's reserved, it's something that is such a characteristic of Brahms. He doesn't tell you, he let you guess. He let you, when he give a gift to his friends, he doesn't just knock on the door, say, here is a gift for you. He would hide it under the piano lid or something and wait for the friends to discover it. He is such a good he likes to hide things and to not say things bluntly and up front. So here, instead of singing it out loud like in Chopin, we should also reserve our feelings. And one thing worth noticing, this whole thing has the biggest point of the whole piece is marked forte. Never fortissimo, never crescendo after forte. Forte is as big as it gets. I think that also proves that he's trying to control his feeling. And of course, when you say everything out loud, it's exciting, but it's more intense when you don't say everything, don't reveal everything, when people know you're trying to control and not letting go of all your feeling. And on the contrary to Dolce, for Brahms, if he really wants to say things, he puts espressivo. So in measure 31, after this big leap, that's where he put expressive, and also this part. But if you count the number of expressivo marking and the number of dolce marking, probably dolce has a little more, so he wants more reserved feeling. And after first 8 measures, the following 8 measures are similar, it's a variation of the first, but then pianissimo, so even high steeper with, of course, a middle voice sticking out. Here, we are having a half cadence from A major to E major, and suddenly C major, but instead of brighter, it feels darker. Well, of course, you can argue that because suddenly the melodic line is not moving anywhere, right? It's really making a circle instead of going to a direction. It's, in hesitation. But also, Brahms put a hairpin on 3 notes. And 3 notes, the second note is the highest, right? But simply to play the second note loud doesn't do the job at all. Because he wanted us to crescendo from E to F sharp, right? If he didn't want that, he would just simply put an accent on the F sharp and it sounded like this, right? And obviously that sounds wrong. So what we can do to help, because we cannot do a crescendo on 1 note, is to get a little help from the left hand. Yeah, but so cleverly Brahms did not put this hairpin on the left hand part, because if he does that, we will play all we hear is this sweeping ocean without the melodic note. So from this time on, we should be really sensitive on where the hairpin or the dynamic signs were put. Is it on the right side, on the left side, or the left hand, or is it for both? Yeah, he put dolce in the middle, meaning it's for both hands. But in this case, the hairpins, the growing and the diminishing is only for the right hand. But of course, with help from the left hand. Yeah. And this measure 16 is a starting point of a huge build-up to measure 30. Yeah. And how did he do that? He starts from this low point and grow and drop, grow and drop, but grow a little bigger and drop a little. Now we're on A, grow, drop, grow a little bigger, drop again with the left hand pedal point, and the right hand is a chromatic scale, and go down, more chromatic scale, go down. So it's really like waves. Yeah, it goes up and then it drops. And of course, this measure 30, this is as open as it gets. Every time when we reach this, you should feel relief. Yeah, you suddenly, from whatever you're reserving, you're able to say it. However, and it's still just 1 forte. Yeah, left hand has its own crescendo, right hand has its own crescendo, but it's only forte. So, and even though if it's fortissimo, we can only play so deep without making the sound harsh. So what we do it with time. So we delay. Yeah, to show the growth of emotion instead of just to bang it. Again, this piece really is one of the longest in the set, and also it has the most condensed information that I want to share. So I will break this into 2 episodes. So hopefully within one more episode we can finish this. Well, I will keep up with updating my channel, and see you next week.